What's up, guys and gals? My name is Splattercat, and we are here today playing Hero Siege in our weekly indie newcomer. What is Hero Siege? Hero Siege is a twin-stick action RPG, which is a lot like, I suppose, Smash TV. And I've told you guys on the channel several times that Smash TV is one of my favorite games of all time. I had the Super Nintendo version, I had the Sega Genesis version. I loved that game to death. And so when I saw Hero Siege up on Steam, and I played it for the first time, it was almost like reliving my childhood. And the moment I put it down, I was like, you know what, this is going to be a game that is going to be our weekly indie newcomer because I like it that much instantly. Now let's talk about, I've started a new game here, and you can have up to 6 characters saved, and basically how it works is your character levels up as you fight in an arena over and over and over again. It's wave-based combat, but you go through different maps with different obstacles. There's randomized things on every single arena, so it always feels fresh. And this is one of my 6 characters. It's just going to be specifically for this weekly indie newcomer. Let's talk about the characters you can choose from. You've got the Viking, which is a close-ranged, high-damage, I mean, that's pretty much it. He can't shoot very far, but he hits insanely hard up close. He's got a lot of HP. He's quite tanky. I haven't looked at his abilities, so I can't really tell you much beyond that. I prefer to stay at a range when I play games like this. The Pyromancer. The Pyromancer is quite the pyromaniac, which makes sense considering they both have the word pyroman inside of them. The Pyromancer shoots a firebolt which hits the enemy and abruptly stops and explodes into flames. He can be modified to make his bolts go through things, but that's what differentiates him from the Marksman. The Marksman, by comparison, his bolts go through things, but at the same time he modifies out a little bit differently, so he's more kind of a multi-shot deal. The Pyromancer can do multi-shot. You do have talent trees that you can go down to get better. You can respec, and we'll talk about all this stuff as we play the game because obviously we've got a lot of time to fill. The Nomad, another close-range character, but he seems to be kind of the bard of the group. He's a little bit weird. He's tough to get used to in that his abilities don't necessarily do a ton of damage, but he debuffs things and has like a lot of weird status effects that he puts on the enemies. And so I've played around with the Nomad a little bit, but I haven't had a dedicated character. I think the highest level character I have is the Pyromancer. This time we're going to go with the Marksman. And we get to name him. So I'm going to name him Fingles. There we go, Fingles. And so now that he's been named, we'll go ahead and start up with him. We're going to start the game, and we're going to go to the first act, which is the Forests of Terathiel, and I'm clicking things in properly. Now, I will let you know that I am playing this game with an Xbox controller. This is one of those games that just doesn't kind of do well with a keyboard, so if you're planning on playing it, I would definitely recommend getting yourself a wired controller of some kind. It does come natively compatible, so you aren't going to have to set up like Joy-to-Key or anything like that. It's all going to be perfectly running straight out of the box. And there are multiple difficulties. If you're really interested, you can play this game on hardcore mode, which is insanely awesome. But anyways, let's go ahead and take some shots here. And it appears as though I have started with some kind of relic, which is weird because I didn't purchase a relic. Who even knows anymore? So as you can see, I'm going to explain to you how the controls go right here. My right stick controls the direction that I'm firing in, the left stick controls movement. These boxes are filled with blood and skulls. There it is. And also treasure. Let's keep our treasure with the blood and skulls, said I guess the supply officer in question. I don't really know. I'll talk about this later, but in any case, you can shoot the bushes. They have treasure inside of them because bushes make the perfect storage receptacle for all of your lively goods. We've got a treasure chest over here. Let's open that on up, and it's got a potion inside of it, so we'll try and grab that. And we've leveled up. We've got a magic potion that I'm going to try out too. The magic potions give you buffs and debuffs. You don't really know what they do until you try them out, so you may as well get started early. Our armor has been increased. Now it's time for the next wave. If I press the Y key, it takes me to my character sheet. In this case, I'm going to go with attack speed. We've also got an extra point for our talent tree, so I'm going to go with a point to critical hit chance. And then we're going to back on out of there. If we press the X key, or the X button is going to bring up our shop menu. And from our shop menu, we can buy temporary upgrades that will last for this run, or we can buy health potions, we can buy damage potions, basically stuff that will buff us up for this run but will not maintain were we to die. So if you die, there are a couple things you keep in this game. When you die, you keep your crystals and you keep your XP, and you get to start over from the beginning from the way that you were. So each time you should experience some kind of progression where you move along a direct line towards the end of the game. Now, I'm not very good at the game, so I end up taking a lot longer at certain stages than you would expect, but the game does implement certain randomized elements like Binding of Isaac and games of like that. Oh, nope, oh god, no spider, please don't bite me. Please don't bite me. Adhere to the treaty. There we are. So we've gone ahead and killed off a couple more enemies. And so once you've leveled up a little bit, you will get a bit further into the game, obviously, but for now, your death is more or less guaranteed because you simply aren't going to have the damage, the attack power, the HP to survive some of the nastier enemies unless you're just kind of like a savant of this game, which I unfortunately am not. I'm going to collect a little bit more treasure here, and then we've also got a level up to allocate. Now then, you're probably wondering what stuff in this game is randomized, because that's probably the interesting part to you. Well, the game does sort of borrow a lot of things from The Binding of Isaac and other arena-based shooters like that, where every single time you play the game, there's going to be different bonuses, there's going to be different loot that drops. That's right, we haven't seen any loot yet, but at a certain point you'll start getting crystal chests, and every time you beat a boss, you get a piece of loot as well. You can get loot by doing dungeons, so every now and again, let's say we're up on this map and we're causing trouble, we're wreaking havoc, we're filling things full of arrows, a dungeon will randomly show up. That means you can take a timeout from the arena, go do the dungeon, which you can still die in the dungeon. If you die in the dungeon, it still counts as a death and you have to start over in this map as well. But if you complete the dungeons, which tend to be very, very difficult, if you indeed do complete them, you will find yourself with a shiny new piece of treasure. Now, as of right now, we don't have any treasure. Those little red orbs give me health, by the way. In case you were wondering what a little red orb might do in a video game, at this point, if you haven't picked up what a red orb is going to do in a video game, I'm not entirely sure what to do. Because little red orbs do seem, I mean, in some games, little red orbs give you experience or something, but the first thing that I would assume is that it probably gives me HP. But anyways, I've explained it now, I've addressed it, we can move forward and continue killing skeletons and blood maggots. Now, you can see that unfortunately, we're not dealing a ton of damage, and the game does have a fairly long-winded progression system, so what I will say is that it is going to take you a long time to level up a character. From what I've seen, I've played about 3 or 4 hours, and that was enough time to get a character up to maybe 13 or 14. I have done a short Let's Play of this game, so that'll probably be going up at some point this week. This is one of those weird games that I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a Let's Play, and I'm going to do a weekly indie newcomer on it because I like it that much. We've completed our wave, so when does a boss show up? A boss shows up every 6th wave, so 6, 12, 18, 24, and so forth. I've only made it up to like 40 something. I haven't made it much further than that because honestly I've been busy. I have to go to a wedding this weekend, and so we got a little bit of travel in our future, and you know how that goes. But I think I've been far enough to kind of see what the game has. Now the bosses, oh, we're on wave 6 actually, so let's go back over here and we'll take a look and see what boss we got. Hopefully we didn't get anything too nasty. Where is he at? There should be a little satanic circle around somewhere. Oh, it's a giant tree and he's entangled me. That's a fun feature. Alright, well it looks like he's dropping. I've never seen this boss before, and I've actually played quite a bit. I've seen 10 to 9 bosses, and this is one that I have not had any view of. So I guess those little lawn... Oh, we want to get away. He's entangled us. I don't know if you can struggle your way out of that. Oh my. Okay, well at least it breaks you free whenever he does it. He is poisoned right now, so that is working to our advantage. I think our little... I don't know, he's like a little shrunken head or like a sugar skull or something. He's going through and making our enemy's life difficult, so at least we're dealing some damage even though we're spending a lot of our time entangled. Let's go ahead and finish him off so you can see what the loot looks like. And there goes our first boss. Now he may continue to drop his stuff on the ground, those little pustules that he's dropping all over the place. Some bosses continue to attack even though they're in the process of their dying animation. It becomes a little frustrating, but it is something you want to pay attention to because you could potentially lose a character just by not paying attention, which is my perennial enemy. That's the one that I always face. Don't blame me, blame the Minears, but in any case, let's go ahead and level our character up. We've got 4 points. I'm going to go for a bit more attack speed because I really like laying down the DACA in this game. We're going to go for some extra crit chance, and we're going to keep on trucking. So let's take a look around the map real fast to make sure that it didn't spawn any random elements that we can make use of. And if indeed we do find those elements, we shall combine them into a compound, and it shall be amazing. I don't see anything but booby traps, and so in the interest of keeping our boobies nice and safe, I think what I'd like to do is track down wherever that portal is. I don't know where the portal went. I don't have a mini-map, so that becomes kind of a problematic issue for me. Looks like there's a campfire over there. Portal, where are you? Ah, there you are, next to all the candles, and it looks like we've acquired some kind of weird pentagram-laden book. The Book of Belial, Satanic Power, with such enthusiasm. Let's test it out and see what it does. So it makes me turn red. Taking a look at my stats, it doesn't look like that does anything. We'll have to test it out. A lot of the things in this game are going to use kind of a try or die method where you really want to go through and fiddle around with them for a bit because they're not necessarily going to explain what they do. Now let's talk about the traps. We'll try and use that as early as we can in this fight, but it's going to have a little bit of a recharge time associated with it. So we're getting our MMO on with regard to cooldowns. And fire a couple rounds to the fence right there to take him out. I don't really need that health. You do want to leave the health pickups on the ground because they do persist. So if you've got full health like I do, I really like that little relic that we started with. I don't know why we started with that. That's never happened before, so apparently I started with a freebie this time. And that's never anything to bitch and moan about. We've got another level up, so let's go ahead and do attack power that time. You can actually see how much it's going to increase your damage by. Not very much would be the answer to that question. Let's continue working on these boxes, which are acting as a little bit of a stopgap for our attacks. In this map, we're going to have to deal with Wendigos, and the problem with Wendigos is that they're very, very fast, and they will run you down eventually. You can use the traps. If you're paying attention right now, you'll see that there's traps all over our map. You can use those against your enemies. An aider rat. I don't even know what that was. It said an aider rat or a beater rat. I don't know if it was an aider rat or a beater rat or whether it really matters. A beater rat sounds like a rat that might come out and just beat the living hell out of you. So, oh, I got hit. So the enemies do explode and do random stuff as you play through as well. That puts me in a weird situation where I died a lot earlier than I was expecting, so I'll show you some of the later game stuff. This is the character from my LP, so we'll play him for just a moment, so you can get a feel for what he does. And I don't really know if this is going to kind of act as a spoiler for the remainder of the game. You'll forgive the momentary lag. The game seems to do like a weird chugging phase for me early on in the game, and then once it loads whatever it is that it's going to be doing, you're good to go. And so this is what the Pyromancer is going to do. We'll go through his talent list in just a minute so that you can have a little look-see at everything that he's going to be doing. You can see that occasionally his firebolts turn into meteors. His fire speed is way, way faster than what you might expect. That's because he's at level 20, and I've put a considerable amount of points into our attack speed. I'll show you his talent tree in just a moment so that you can get a feel for that. He's also, I don't think he started with any relics or anything of that nature. But you'll also notice that he's wearing a strange hat. This game uses a system in which every time you kill a boss you get crystals, and those crystals can be traded in for vanity items that change the way your character looks. The game has limited multiplayer implemented right now. It is a little bit buggy from what I understand. I haven't tested it out personally with any friends or anything of that nature, but there is an option. The game also has a hardcore mode if you're feeling incredibly manly and you just feel like mustaching things to death. Then indeed, here's one of the dungeons. We'll do that so that you guys can see what that's like. If you're feeling as though your mustache is extra bushy, I will warn you, the hardcore mode is not for the faint of heart. Once you're dead, your character gets instantaneously deleted. It's borrowed from games like Diablo and so forth, where, well, I guess it's also gotten from old roguelikes and things of that nature like NetHack. But in any case, once your character is gone, it is gone. Taking a look around this dungeon, it looks like there's going to be a button puzzle over there. Now, this is totally random right here. You'll recall that in our previous play, this was not here. This was just something that showed up on this playthrough, and the developers have done a tremendous job at making sure that every single playthrough of this game feels very, very fresh, which helped me spend, I missed class the day after I got it. It was all kinds of ugly. I was playing the game way too much. Let's push these buttons. And if there's one thing I'm good at, it is indeed pushing buttons. Wait, what's going on here? There we go. And so that one has triggered some kind of puzzle over here. And having triggered the puzzle, looks like we've got 3 blocks that have been upraised. Well, God, I don't even know what's going on. Oh, we can push those around. That does kind of raise an interesting question now that I've tested that out. Let's see if we can dislodge him maybe with a multi-shot. There we go. I have multi-shot, so we're not completely in total. And it queues up your hits. That's irritating. So that needs to be fixed right there. Oh, it just travels until it hits a wall. Okay. Well, then that doesn't need to be fixed. I just need to be better at gaming. Looks like it has to come to a full stop before we can go. Can I reset this somehow? There we go. That's really what I would prefer to do. So what I need to do is, since those two are already lined up, I need to take this guy. Well, I can't go like that. So as you can see, the puzzles are fairly well thought out. I mean, it's a simple slide movement puzzle. We'll reset it one more time. Oh, we're gonna have to go down with it. Okay, that's fine. I just wasn't paying attention, as always. And so there we go. Once those are all slid into place, we can cross this little bridgey thing, this bridge-a-madoober, and we'll flick this switch, which will then open up a bridge. I can almost guarantee it. Drink the magic potion, which gave us a speed increase. Very cool. It also flicked the switch for us nice and early. I wasn't ready for the switch to be flicked, but it did it anyways. It was a preemptive switch flipping, which might get some people's panties in a ruffle, but it's alright. I'm not in the space right now, I'm not in the headspace right now where I'm going to be frustrated over little things. You know what I mean? I'm just going to let it fly. Just going to let it fly all over the place. Now, we do have a golden chest down there and also a crystal chest, which I think I'm going to take advantage of. We can buy crystal keys by going to the shop, pressing the X button. That magic potion has gone og flies, and also dropped a laser trap on us. Lovely. And so as you can see, some of the more well-loved traps from Diablo 3 have been implemented. And once that's all out of the way, God. We've got our attack speed boost, very good. I'm going to go and buy a crystal key so you guys can see how this works. We've gotten ourselves the spectral arrow, which means that our projectiles are now spectral, and I think that means they might travel through things. That gate appears as though it's still down, so I've missed something here. Oh, I forgot to flick the switch. There we are. The gate is now open and we can move forward. And hopefully we'll get ourselves a sweet piece of There's going to be a boss, isn't there? Yep, and it's Acria. I think Acria... Now, this boss would be very, very difficult were you playing with a new character. Simply because it doesn't look like she's doing a sprint at the moment. But she does have kind of a... Yeah, there it is right there. So it's kind of a wave-based attack where she fires out a whole bunch of projectiles. I'm going to use my Meteor Strike ability so that you guys can see what that looks like. That's what one of the endgame abilities is that you get with the Pyromancer. It's very, very useful. Let's back up a tad because that little lightning bolt attack is very, very horrifying. And there she is. She's now beaten to bloody pulps. Oh no, and she's still shooting projectiles at me. Even through the grave, posthumously pelting me. And we've got a boot that is very, very flammable, apparently. The Blazing Boot. And now we leave a flaming trail behind us, which is pretty sweet. Any enemy that steps in that is going to be hurting like crazy. We'll do a figure 8. There we go. And then back up the ladder and we'll be in the arena. I think at this point, it's probably a good thing to do our pros and cons, since this is really all you're going to see in the game. There's lots of talent trees. There's lots of items. I mean, there's a crazy amount of items in this game. To the extent that in the 4 to 5 hours that I've played, I've seen several dozen of them, and I've only seen the same item go down maybe once. There are a lot of things that do a lot of different stuff. I will say that there are quite a few pets that kind of do the same thing, just with slight modifications, but given the range of just sheer consumables and items in the game, I think I'd give it a pass right there. So with our pros, I will say that the game is pretty much endlessly replayable. This is a game that every single time you play through, you don't really mind restarting, because every single go is a little bit different, and as you level up, the first bunch of levels typically go a lot faster anyways. Gotta take a breath here and wipe out some of these dune rats. Now, the other pros that I would say is that the talent trees seem to be fairly well assembled. All of the characters are pretty good at doing their own thing. They've made sure that each character is distinct and has its own way of standing apart from the other characters. The itemization is quite good. The game does fall victim to some RNG, which I will say goes into the cons column. Other pros is that the art direction is very, very good. I like the fact that they're implementing multiplayer, and if they ever make this game to the point where you can just jump onto a server online and just kind of instantly hot swap with people, it will be absolutely fantastic. Basically, hot seat matching would be something that I'd like to see from here. This game is released on the Android, and it is released on the iPhone, I believe, as well, if you wanted to get it there. The game is a port, but it's not a shoddy port, which is always that nice distinction that I like to make. So there's another con. Even though it's a port from other platforms, it performs very, very well on the PC. It feels fluid. I've yet to run into any bugs. The cons of the game is that I will say the number one thing that gets my goat, when my goat is ready to be got, is that the game is predisposed to one-shottings. You don't get temporary immunity when you're hit, so it's very possible to just be like bim bam bomb 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 and then just fall over instantly dead and not know what happened. A remedy to this that I would personally like to see is I would absolutely love to see a kill cam implemented, where when you die it shows you a slow motion repeat of what happened, so that the next time you can learn from it and make sure that it doesn't occur again. RNG also plays against you. I mentioned that a little bit up front, but RNG does play against you while you're running through the game. Sometimes you just get a really, really bad configuration of items, or their shrines, and the shrines, there's a devil shrine and there's a angel shrine. The angel shrine gives you buffs, but the devil shrine you're gambling for either a super buff or a super debuff that's permanent until you die. And if you catch a really, really bad debuff early on in the game, you're done. Now, I guess that does play into part of the gambling system, but it's difficult to see like 25 levels worth of upgrading disappear instantaneously simply because you activated a shrine. So I will say that if you have a low tolerance for RNG, this game may frustrate you with the frequent one-shottings that occur. Basically, you have a pass in that if you're good at the game, you'll dodge things a lot of the time, but that one time that you don't dodge things, guess what? It will probably kill you instantly. It's difficult to mess up your character. In pros, I would say I'm going to go back to pros now, because the cons I think I've already covered. I think I would just say that it's RNGE and you get one-shotted a lot. The bosses all seem fair. They seem to be well configured. I've yet to come across a boss that I was like, this is bullshit, and like threw the controller across the room. Which I think there are certain bosses in games like Binding of Isaac that the moment I see them, I'm just like, well, I'm dead. And I've yet to see those in this game. Now, I will say that I haven't played the game on hard mode yet, but with the bosses I've seen in the first couple acts, thus far they all seem as though they're surmountable so long as you're paying attention to your surrounding and you have some level of situational analysis and awareness. So in any case, this game is $9.99 on Steam right now. I would definitely recommend that you go and pick it up if you are into arena twin stick shooters. If you're a fan of anything like Smash TV, I mean that's the #1 game that comes to mind. If you ever played Gauntlet and had a good time there, this game has a lot in common with old Gauntlet games where it's kind of got like a slight roguelike, fantasy-esque leveling up system going on where you're always finding loot and keys and things of that nature. I think you'll probably like this game too. So the game is Hero Siege. I look forward to seeing you guys in next week's episode of Weekly Indie Newcomer, $9.99. All the information is going to be down below in the description. Pick it up, and hopefully if they put multiplayer in, I'll be able to jump onto a server and we can all have a little bit of fun. Take care out there, everybody, and I will see you next time.